So before we get started, I have a quick example of a real-life scenario of when you've seen my neuromyth. Imagine that you're just learning how to add two numbers together. There are many ways to teach this concept, but let's say that you are given three ways. You can either watch your teacher add, listen to your teacher explain how to add, or add together nearby objects. My question is, do you think one of these methods would improve one kid's ability to add while on another kid it might not work as well? Well, if you said yes above, then you fell for the learning styles neuromyth. Before we take a closer look at debunking the myth, let's first learn what a neuromyth is and what a learning style is. A neuromyth is a frequently misconceived notion about the different functions of the brain and the nervous system. Learning styles are different methods of taking in information, typically categorized into sight, hearing, and touch, kind of like the example I showed above. The premise of the learning styles neuromyth is that different learning styles can be personalized to improve the learning of a student or learner. This neuromyth is not new, however. It actually came about in the 1950s and gained traction in the 1970s. Although there is no evidence tracing the myth back to one specific person, many trace it back to C.G. Jung's Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Test, which separates personality types into 16 categories. However, this is not where the myth actually started, but more likely what led to it. So, why is this neuromyth so widely accepted? Well, in a research study on learning styles led by Dr. Harold Pashler, he outlined that the myth most likely gained popularity for two reasons. Firstly, people enjoy being seen as an individual, and by creating personalized types of learning, the myth caught on and seemed appealing. Secondly, by creating different learning styles, people can take the responsibility off themselves if they do not perform well and blame it on the way they were taught. Recently, however, many teachers have perpetuated the myth by trying to personalize their teachings to fit each student's learning preference. According to a study done by Dr. Sanne Decker, 90% of teachers believe in this neuromyth. However, in another study done by Professor Philip Newton, he searched for learning style articles in databases and found evidence that 94% of current articles and research papers begin with a positive distortion of learning styles. This could be why so many teachers find learning styles so convincing and implement them into coursework. While speculation about this myth has been going on for a while, it wasn't until Dr. Harold Pashler's research that thoroughly debunked the myth. He reviewed decades of research and information about learning styles and found no direct evidence linking instruction to preferred styles enhancing learning. To fully prove so, though, he used an experiment known as a crossover interaction. In his experiments, he proved that one learning method makes people do better or worse than another learning method for two learners with different preferred styles. This proves that two different types of learners can score better off of the same method of learning and disproves the theory that there needs to be personalized types of learning for them to improve. Despite scientists denouncing and proving wrong the learning style neuromyth, it is still widely accepted and used in schools nationally. Much of this is because scientific information has been distorted and misconstrued for years. Furthermore, many people want to believe the myth as true because it seems appealing, especially to educators. However, the learning style neuromyth trains learners to restrict themselves to only one style of learning. It also makes it hard for children to adjust to different learning environments they might see later in life. Another part of the reason this neuromyth has been around for so long is because, while some of it is wrong, a lot of it is misconstrued. The areas of the brain are interconnected and work together, which allows information to pass through the brain. The neuromyth promotes learning occurs better in one part of the brain, making this part false. On the other hand, the neuromyth misconstrues that the brain receives information better in one way. While it is true that a person can prefer one style of learning, this does not mean that they can only learn it in one way. I chose to discuss the learning styles neuromyth because up until a couple weeks ago, I actually believed it. I would tell my teachers that I was a visual learner at the beginning of the year. I feel that believing this neuromyth has definitely confined me from trying other methods of learning, and I would urge anyone who has also believed this myth to open yourself up to different types of learning other than your preferred way and become more versatile.